Here we go. Let's go. Okay, let's start the torture.
In your first films, in your Polish films, during the 60s, you have created the portrait of a restless young man, a man who cannot stay in one place. Is this a kind of autobiographical portrait of a lost generation during the communist regime?
Not exactly, because I wasn't a typical representative of that so-called generation. I was on the extreme side of anti-regime people who dare to demonstrate even by the clothes they wear.
Yeah.
For example, if you have the socks which were with stripes, colorful stripes, that was the act against regime. If you have a hair like this, many times the militia get you into the nearest gate, and they went like this with the.
And they cut your ears.
They cut your hair with the, bzzz, like that. That happened many times, and I was on that very extreme, far right wing. So it wasn't a portrait of the generation. It's a portrait of an outsider.
An outsider.
An outsider, yeah.
An anti-conformist in a way.
Anti-conformist, yes.
And this man, Andrzej Leszczyk is right. How do you pronounce it?
Andrzej Leszczyk.
Leszczyk is he's a man who is always running. He's very obstinate. He wants different things, but without real aim. And he's not, of course, a traditional hero. It was a new form, a new approach of young men in Poland, no?
Yes. Yes, actually, never a young character was a hero of any of the Polish movies. They were making war movies, historical movies, some comedies, but never about the 20-something year. Yes, it was an innovation.
Tell me, did you know a little bit the cinemas in the 60s? There was different in different countries, a kind of new cinema exploding like that.
Well, I knew about their existence. I knew the names of people making films in France, Italy, Hungary.
The new wave, for example.
But we actually have met for the first time. When I went with my very first film, I went to Pesaro.
Yeah.
And Pesaro was the place where all those guys, I suddenly met Bernardo and Bellocchio and Istvan Szabo and Milos Forman, whom I knew from my childhood practically, and Ivan Passer and Miklos Jancho, all of them were there, So suddenly we start to see each other films.
You saw the films for example, of the Nouvelle Vague, of the French Nouvelle Vague, of Godard, of Truffaut, later on.
Later, yes. Later I start to pay attention, to what's going on, because remember I was telling you already that when I went to the film school, my favorite film was Fanfan la Tulipe. So that was my criteria of, you know, what should be good on the screen. But I made the simple calculation. I understood from the beginning when I went to the school, if I will go through the normal process of going through 4 years of school and then being a third assistant, second assistant, first assistant, then maybe in 10, 12 or 14 years I would have a chance to start. Even Roman had to go through the process. He was an assistant to Andrzej Munk. What I decided was to make a movie out of those 6, 12, 14 minutes which I was obliged to do it on every year and so on. And to do that, I had to calculate those things. I must have the actor always on the spot whenever I need him. That means it must be me, unfortunately. No other person would be like that, you know, when I will be ready to have a little piece of the film shot. I have to look exactly the same for the whole period of 3 years. The same haircut, the same clothes, you know, always ready to go for the action. Because, you know, many little bits and pieces were totally improvised, you know, like in the morning I went to the school for something and I met a colleague from the camera department who said, listen, I must have do the zoom test, for which would be, I don't know, 25 seconds or 35 seconds. So I was going to shoot something on the wall, but if you have a better idea, and I had to immediately think about something, and I said, okay, let's go to that place where the lot of scrap metal is, you know. Oh, yeah. And I got the little boy who is banging on the system. Total improvisation, you know. From the moment I learned that I can shoot that 35 seconds thing, to the moment when we shot it was an hour and a half, everything done like this. We went by tramway, okay? Yeah. Two of us, the cameraman and myself. So I said, okay, put the camera here, have a zoom in, and I just walk. And you just bang on the bloody thing non-stop. You go like this. And that was it. So it was a special way of making a movie. And I didn't have any other choice. If I wanted to make what I decided, that I have to finish, I must have a feature film when I be leaving school, that was the only way to do it.
Yeah, that was a clever choice, I must say.
Quite clever.
Quite clever. Tell me something else. These films, the first films of yours, the Polish films, were visually striking and always and very frenetic in a way, always on the move at the same time. Were you awareness at that time of your formal approach and the non-conformist aesthetic of your cinema?
Oh yes, totally, yeah. Keep in mind one thing, you know. Yeah. I was forced to make long shots because I was saving every little piece of the material. Remember that the whole film is done in one take only. So if I have, let's say, I managed to have 4 minutes of the film suddenly, and I can shoot 4 minute scene, I was planning 4 minutes camera move in order to save all those little bits and pieces which I would lose if I cut like this, because you have to start the camera and you have to end, so you always lose a couple of seconds here and few seconds there. And I was simply saving material.
That means that the condition, the objective conditions of the shooting, in that sense gave the aesthetical approach of yours in a way.
In a way,
Yeah,
in a
of
way,
course.
yes. If you analyze the shot, which is, for example, the running down the stairs. So the idea was, okay, I run down the stairs, but I have a little bit longer piece than I need. So I was going backwards by the corridor,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, remember.
calculating every second. So if we go with that speed, like that, it will take 1 minute and 15 seconds. This is exactly what we have. Bang, we went, you know. Full joy of filmmaking, really.
Okay. What are the films that you consider as political in your career?
My films,
Yeah, your films.
the only one was Hands Up,
Hands Up.
the only political film. Otherwise,
Don't you think your Moonlighting is a political film too? A little metaphorical, but it's...
no, but it's not about the politics. It's about those 4 guys. You know, the politics are in the background. They are just creating the situation when those guys are. But you know, they are not members of Solidarity. They don't care what is going on there. The only guy who cares was the turn-up nose guy, who was real. That wasn't an actor. That was one of the guys who were caught by the martial law in London. He was without work. He was without roof over his head. He was homeless, penniless. So I got him, and he played the part. Otherwise, you know, they were not even that much interested in politics. We thought that, you know, the human story, the human aspect, the fact that, you know, this guy has to lie and has to pretend in front of them that nothing is happening, and at the same time he goes through the process of, you know, being jealous about his wife and worries about them, you know. That was the subject, not the politics, not how many people were actually shot in Poland or not.
Let's speak about Hands Up a little bit. Can you talk a little bit about the first, you know, the film that you made and was censored and forbidden for more than 10 years, and the second version of it in the 80s?
Well, the first film was made in 1967.
Yeah.
And I had a good run before that, you know. I had this film which I made in the school. Then immediately I made the first professional film, which was Walkover. Immediately after that, I made The Barrier, which won an important award. Even I got some money, the first money I ever get, real money for the film. I got the award suddenly. For the Barrier. Then
The
I
Barrier
got
was awarded in Bergamo. No, in
Bergamo.
Bergamo. Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry.
And then I made Le Départ, which won the Berlin Film Festival.
Yeah, of course.
So I was really on the, you know, with the full speed going ahead, and I thought that I can do anything I want, you know, and I overestimated my chances. The regime really took me like this, because I was making a political film, ostentationally against regime, you know. I was saying the Stalinism is still here, and those are the effects on us, and we are not really good people because we are in, you know, went through the process of communization and went through that. It's a heavy statement, I must say, and no wonder that they said, no, enough is enough. You know, you, Skolimowski, you are not going to make any more films like this here. I had to emigrate.
And the second version,
And the second version happened when the Solidarity came to power, which was 1981, 14 years later. Suddenly I had a phone call from whoever it was, Minister of Culture. They said, look, there's a chance that you can open on the screen Hands Up, because it was never shown, you know, it was totally censorship, you know, locked somewhere.
It was shown once, I think, in the festival, no?
No. It's supposed to be shown in Venice. Mr. Rondi, who was the president of the festival at that time, came to Warsaw, had seen the Polish films, had seen Hands Up, and secretly congratulated the Polish film authorities for probably the high awards on the festival. He said, this is, for me, this is the most important film of the festival. And unfortunately, they withdrew it in the last moment. It was already in Venice program, and the authorities said, this film is not going to be shown. And that completely changed my life, you know. Suddenly I banged against the wall. I had to change my life completely. I have to look for a job somewhere, you know. I didn't know the languages.
You left.
I was forced to leave.
Yeah, no,
you know. The passport was handed to me and said, you know, good luck. Yeah, they say szerokiej drogi, which means, you know,
the door is open.
Yeah, have a go your way, man. But you know.
And the ends up 81. What did you add in the film?
I thought that I need to shoot the prologue to explain to the audience what had happened. Otherwise, it would be a 14 years old film. So I decided to shoot a half an hour prologue. And I just show what's going on with my life 14 years later. I was actually acting in the Volker Schlendorf movie in Beirut. So I took my crew to Beirut and they shot some kind of observation on the work of a director being directed. You know, it's an interesting little comment. Then the action went to London, where I actually lived, and it showed the speaker's corner, you know, when some people are saying about solidarity, this and that, and then it moves to Warsaw. And there are a couple of very good scenes in it, but altogether, maybe it's a little bit too much on the nose, you know, that I don't have an opinion about the film. Most people say that the better is the long old version, because after that prologue I had to trim a little bit the 85 minutes of the film. I only reduced it to 65 minutes plus this prologue, so it's 20 minutes shorter than
the previous.
Yeah,
the
than
original.
Yeah, many people say that the original version altogether is better. I cannot judge on that.
You say it often, and here too, that your best scripts are those you wrote on very short deadlines. Can you a little bit say more? Because and it's interesting.
Well,
for
the
me.
only way I can explain it is that this is like an outburst of energy, which really gets you on the high track. It's fast driving, and it somehow suits my character. If, if this process is so energetic, then it builds belief that this is it, that I have to go for it. The longer the process is, the more strategies and changes and compromises are involved, the less enthusiasm for the project I have. It's simple as that. Let's face it, the things which were cooked and never work.
This is the case, the short deadlines. This is the case of, for example, The Shout, the film or Moonlighting, which were both critically successful films.
Yes, not only those, but the Four Nights with Anna was
Yes.
written in 4 days. Moonlighting, you mentioned.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Moonlighting was really, a speedy work all the way through. The historical fact happened on the 12th of December. On the 10th of May, the film was shown in Cannes. So it's a kind of world record, I would say. And that proves, that those are the.
But the other films you have made from adaptation, for example, you need more time.
And that's why they are not that as good. Those are my bad movies. Out of I don't know how many I made, about 17 features, I would say that there is 5 or 6 are really pretty good, and maybe another 5 or 6 are okay. And I made a couple of 3 or 4 films which I am very unhappy with. And.
Writing a script is a job you are doing with pleasure, or the main pleasure your desire is to shoot the films more than to write the scripts. What is your preference?
No, the actual work on the set is the most fun, because then the things is happening and the activities on the highest gear. When you write a script, you can take a break. You can do whatever you want for several hours or days. There, you go for it. It's a hunting, and of course the responsibility is also the highest. But then it's either you like to drive fast or not.
Yeah. Another question is, despite receiving prizes and participating to big festivals, your film had a limited release in a way.
Oh yeah, very limited.
How do you explain that?
I don't know. I don't think anybody can ever made money on me. No, maybe no. Some of them had a decent. Moonlighting had the Shout, rank or organization was pleased to announce that they got their money back, and we even got a little profit. No, it's not that bad, no. But some of them were total flops, total. People say that I ruined United Artists with Adventures of Gerard, because it was their film. It cost a lot of money and it brought nothing, Maybe 24 people all around the world bought the tickets to see this film. So, no, there were some terrible flops.
For you, what is your best film? Is it difficult for you to reply to that?
No, probably always, not the last one is somehow the closest to what, especially I must say that I managed to achieve with Essential Killing very high percentage of what would be the maximum, you know. You never get 100%, but you can reach 90s, which is really pretty good, you know. And I'm very happy with this film. Who knows if I would stay in Poland, I don't know what would happen, you know. In a way, it forced me to be more of an opportunist than I naturally was, you know. When I was in Poland, I had those high spirits, you know, and my own values and my pride, and, you know, no way I would compromise with anything. When I was forced to emigrate, I had to accept the necessity of compromise, which is painful, obviously, because then you compromise how much, how little, and you can go off limits. And I went, like, you know, I made a couple of films only for money, because there was the only way I could survive, for sure. You know, but I shouldn't be touching Adventures of Gerard. Come on, I didn't know, I had no idea how to make the professional film. I was an amateur. I was a nouvelle vague guy who was running around with a handheld camera. How could I make a movie with the biggest star? You know, Claudia Cardinale was just, you know, the #1 lady in the European cinema. Painful that I didn't have an idea how to do it.
What do you think of this kind of workshop like Nick in general?
Well, it shows that it makes sense because of the attendance, you know. If you manage to get all those people, and they seem to be very passionate, really interested in the subject, it's an opportunity. You create an opportunity for people to get something, you know, and it's up to them how much they are able to get, you know. But they have the chances. You created the chances. Now they can take it, and good luck with it.